Hi everybody! Today I'm going to teach you how to make these really easy ruffle textures. I get asked about ruffles pretty frequently, and so I thought I would go ahead and do a tutorial for you. These are super easy to make, and you can finish them a number of ways. You can see that I've got a grain in two of them and then the lace texture in one. And so, like I said, super easy to make, so we'll go ahead and get started. I usually work on 512 by 512, and I'm just going to bucket fill with black on my background layer because it's a little bit easier to see for this particular tutorial because we're going to use our blur tool. And then I draw a rectangle. So this is going to be whatever you desire for your trim color. I'll go with a pretty light color to make it easier for you guys to see. And you're going to rasterize that layer. I always work with a layer that's a little bit wider than what I intend to use because you can always shrink it up. And then I'm going to get my burn tool out, and I'm going to go to my shape dynamics right here, and I'm going to set it to a fade, and depending on how long your or how wide your ruffle is going to be, you're going to set how many pixels it is. So I'm going to use 15 because I know that's about the right length. And I'm going to set my exposure up pretty high. I'm going to set it to 45%. And I'm going to just drag my burn tool across this texture. And you can see it finishes off to a point, which is going to give us that nice wrinkled effect that or ruffled effect that we're looking for. And if you really want to practice your brush control, you can go over it a couple times. And so I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to get out my smudge tool, and I am just going to smudge downwards the areas between the creases that we just made with our burn tool. And I usually use, about 50% strength on this just because I don't want to get carried away, and it's really easy to control at about 50%. I use a little bit bigger brush than I think I need, just kind of as a hint, if you will. And I just pull it downwards, like that. Not to the point of distorting too badly, but just to give us a nice ruffled effect. Then we're going to go back with our dodge tool, and I'm going to just dodge in some light areas over the top so it looks like they go upwards. And I'm going to go back one more time with my burn tool, and I'm going to take the fade off of this guy. And I'm just going to darken these areas right through here just a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way to the tip because that would defeat the purpose of the exercise we just had. Just like that. Okay, so now our ruffle is pretty much done. I'm going to copy this 3 times so I can show you all 3 effects that I made on the other my sample for you. So I'm going to pull that guy upwards. If you wanted these wrinkles a little bit tighter, you can always just kind of pull them like that and get a tighter ruffle effect. So, you're not really... And then if you flip it horizontally, you'll get a fairly seamless texture. You might have to go and do a little dodging and burning to bridge the gap, but it'll be pretty good. So, I'm going to start on this top layer. I'm going to duplicate it once, and I'm going to go to Filter and Noise, and I'm going to add noise to this guy. And depending on how you want it to look is how much noise you want. I'm going to do a Gaussian, and I'm going to take it off monochromatic and put some color in this. And you can see it looks like that. This is of course just playing around, so don't feel like you're stuck with this. And then I'm going to go back to Filter, and I'm going to go to Blur, and I'm going to go to Motion Blur. And I'm just going to blur it at a 45-degree angle at about 30 pixels, 40 pixels, somewhere in there. And then set this to overlay. And you'll see we have a very cool texture through here. And then to clean it up, I just select the original layer, hit Control-Shift-I to invert my selection, and just delete that layer and clean it up. And it looks beautiful, just like that. So that's how I create the first texture. And then you can either save your layers or merge them, up to you. This next one I'm going to do at the bottom is similar, but just a little bit different. I'm going to select and load the selection so I have the shape, and I'm going to add a layer. And then I'm going to bucket fill with a little crosshatch pattern I've made. And I've shown you how to make this pattern on another tutorial. I believe it's the trim tutorial. And then I'm going to blur the sky. You might see what your shape blurs look like and see if that's an effect that you want. A little bit difficult to see, I know. So anyway, lots of options for you. Or you can just do your motion blur, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to do too much of a blur like the other one, just a little bit, about 20 pixels. And I'm going to set this guy to a soft light, and it gives us that nice grained texture like you get on ribbons. And the same process to clean up those edges, load selection on the original layer, Control-Shift-I, and delete to clean up all the fuzziness, and then merge them. And you've got that beautiful kind of gross grain ribbon type texture for that. You might want to go back if it faded like mine did, and oops, wrong tool, and just burn in a little bit again and define your pattern a little bit, just like that. And then on the other one I made a lace texture, and this is surprisingly easy to do. What I do is I just get a lace brush that you can download. There's hundreds of sites to download them. Just find a lace pattern you like, add a layer, and then I just drop this in on top like that. And then I go to select, load selection. I hit Control-Shift-I to invert the selection and then delete the lace layer below it. I hit D, delete, or Control-D rather, to deselect, and then delete that lace texture that I added. And now you can see I've got a ruffled lace that I originally made, and I'm just gonna, you can again go in and make it a little bit darker if you want, depending on how what your opacity is on your lace. You might want to do some doctoring, but just like that, and you've got a ruffled lace texture. So just make sure you're using, if you want to make this longer than what you start with, just make sure you are using a seamless lace texture. So very easy again to create that brush yourself, or hundreds of them out there literally. So that is my tutorial. As always, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, post comments, or ask questions. I'm always kind of watching my channel and email to answer those questions for you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I hope you find this tutorial useful.